We're starting off our July Jamboree by painting this little sweetheart with her flag. Today is Independence Day here in the US, so I wanted to do a painting to honor the holiday. The full version of this lesson is available to my Patreon and YouTube members, but you'll still get to see how I created the grass and the flowers, the little girl's dress, and the crisp stars and stripes on the flag in this version of the video. If you're celebrating the 4th, I hope you enjoy the day, and of course, I hope you enjoy this lesson. Now let's head over to the easel and get dusty. All right, so starting off by blocking in my major shapes, so the girl, and then putting down an underpainting with my Rembrandts for the landscaping, using a bright violet for the tree area, tealy blue for the sky, and then a nice bright yellow for the grass area. And then I'm just rubbing it into the paper just to get it to stain the paper and help prevent it from blending in too much with the layers I put on top. So now switching to my softer pastels. For the sky, I'm leaving it pretty simple, just a couple layers of some lighter blues over top. With my tree area, I am scumbling here, which is just this kind of light random movement with the pastel, and just putting this over top of the trees. You'll see I'm leaving a lot of that violet showing through. I'm doing that on purpose to help create a glow. And then I'm going to use a couple different shades of green here just to create some interest and just some different levels of vegetation in the background. In the grassy area, you can see here, I am using a vertical stroke, going up and down with my green instead of scumbling. And I'm doing that on purpose because our grass is vertical. So I want to start out with a vertical stroke that just helps that feeling of the grass. And then I blend in an upward motion as well. And now coming in with just a slightly lighter, cool green. And then you'll see I even bring in here a warmer green just to get just the feeling of the sun just kind of dancing on the trees a little bit. And then I use that same warm green that I used in the trees down here in the grass to create this feeling of just more movement within the grass, more layers, more textures. And I pull the grass color up a little higher into the trees there just a bit to get rid of that straight line. And now you can see I'm using a cooler green in the back, which is kind of typical for most landscapes. Generally speaking, depending on the lighting, you would have your cooler tones in the back and your warmer tones in the front. And here I'm just demonstrating a longer vertical stroke with my green, just again, to really accentuate that feeling of the grass. And now I am using the long corner of a square pastel just to do some very gentle, I'm just barely touching it to the paper, just to create some of those little horizontal lines there. You can see how lightly I'm touching. Just to bring in some grass blades that little more in the golden tones, create a little more interest. And here I'm doing the same thing, except now I'm using the short edge of the pastel, that corner, that longer corner, but on the short side to create some of the shorter grasses. And then just a few little darker marks here and there just to brighten it up a bit. And then I just use a soft creamy yellow for my flowers that are dotted throughout the grassy area. And let's take a moment before we get to the girl to talk about my Patreon channel, the Pastel Growth Studio. Of course, I go much deeper into all the techniques I use in this lesson inside my Pastel Growth Studio on Patreon. My members not only get full lessons, but also full product evaluations, step-by-step how-tos for your most pressing pastel questions, fun monthly challenges, and behind-the-scenes looks. I would love to welcome you to the family. I'm offering a 7-day free trial, and it's only $5 a month after that. I'll put the link in the description. All right, thank you for listening to my commercial. Okay, so starting on the dress, I am using a new pastel here. And to start out with, I'm just outlining around the edges of the dress. And I'm doing this because, as you can see, it's kind of messy. There's not like a clean edge for the dress. I had blocked in the color at the very beginning, and then I've done a lot of work around it. So there's a lot of color bleeding, and it's just kind of messy. So using that new pastel, the nice sharp edge to put the outline in. And now I am also using it to fill in the dress. And I'm doing it with this really hard pastel because it's not going to fill up the tooth too much, whereas if I used a softer one, it would. Okay, so this is my favorite trick for creating shadowing. I am using the complementary color of that pinkish red. So this is a very dark, warm green, which is, a complement of this pinkish red. And I'm just using it wherever I see the folds in the dress, wherever I want to put some of these shadows. And using a complementary color is easier than trying to find the exact right shade of red in your box. And it looks more realistic. Now you'll see how gray all that looks, which is exactly what I was trying to do. And now I'm coming back in with the original pastel that I used when I blocked in the dress. So this pastel is a lighter color than that new pastel that I put down. So now this is creating more of the highlights on the dress. So we've got kind of 3 different shades of red going on here. We have the new pastel red, and which is the dress color, and then we have the shadow color, and then we have this lighter red for the highlights. So continuing to just add some shadow there on top where the little cape is. And now I'm coming in with, this is kind of a peach color. It's not white, but it's light enough that it shows up, just putting that edging in. And then bringing back my new pastel just to get some of that red back in. So I don't want the dress to look too pink. So just a few more details there. Now working on the hair. So I think I use 3 or 4 different shades of brown in here. And it's just to create some depth. So I start out with the darker browns as kind of the under painting or the under layer for the hair. And then I build on top of that with the lighter tones. And this is because there's sunlight glinting off of her hair. She's not blonde necessarily, so I don't really use the warmer tones. I'm sticking to the cooler tones and just going back and forth between a few different shades of those cooler browns and just trying to capture kind of that light silky flow of her hair. All right, let's work on the flag now. So here I am back to my Rembrandts because they are nice and hard, and I can use the sharp edge on them to create these very crisp, straight lines. And you'll notice that the red I'm using for the flag is darker and more vibrant than the dress. The red on the dress is kind of a pinkish red, whereas this is a true bold red. And I did this on purpose. I wanted that flag to really stand out as our focal point. So when you're thinking about your focal points, you want to think about creating differentiation where it's going to really make it obvious that this is where the eye is supposed to go. So I purposely faded the dress a little bit and then stuck with these bold colors and crisp lines to make the flag stand out. I just have to sketch in the fold and the area for the blue. When I initially drew it, it wasn't quite right. So now getting that red in there. And you'll see me, I keep looking over to the right. I'm really paying attention to the reference photo and trying to make sure I have the right number of stripes. So for the white, I'm actually not using white here. I am using the palest blue that I have. And the reason I'm doing that is because it is a cool white. Next to that red, which is a really hot color, it creates the impression that that white is much, much brighter white than it would look if I just used an actual white pastel. So that is another one of my favorite tricks for creating, just really vibrant colors, is thinking about the complements, or thinking about playing warm versus cool off of each other. And then for the blue area for the stars, I am just using another Rembrandt here, just putting in this dark navy blue. The stars were fun. I had to start and stop, I think 3 or 4 times because I could not count to 6 for some reason. They go in rows of 6 and then 5 and then 6 and then 5, and I was just struggling counting. But I'm using a new pastel here. So the navy blue I put down being a Rembrandt, again, that's a very hard pastel, so I knew my tooth wouldn't get filled up. So I knew I could come in with a new pastel on top and make these little marks for the stars. So I'm just starting out with dots, just the faintest little dots, because I'm just making sure I have the layout correct and that I have them all where I want them to be. And then I'll come back in now, make them a little bolder and brighter. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I know it was pretty short, but like I mentioned earlier, if you want to see the full lesson, head on over to my Patreon, or you can catch it on YouTube just for my YouTube members. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care.